This episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast was brought to you by Vital Plus. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today my guest is Heidi Cerfontyne from Nimue Skin Technology. As beauty professionals, you are likely to be very well acquainted with hyaluronic acid. However, this incredible ingredient has gone through some very cool changes lately. Today, we talk to Heidi, Education Manager at Nimue, all about this superhero ingredient beyond the typical holds 1,000 times its weight in water comment that most of us have told a client or two across our career. Heidi has been in the skincare, health and wellness industry for over 29 years now and has been directly involved in educating and developing educators and skincare therapists globally since 2004. Heidi's great passion for traveling has taken her from working as a skincare therapist for 7 contracts on board luxury cruise liners to managing an education department at a Spa Consultancy Company in Dubai for 5 years, and then finally returning to South Africa to manage one of the leading spas across the world of Cape Town. Beyond dehydration, today we explore the many forms of HA, including how the weight of the ingredient helps its efficacy, HA in an oil form, and even the prospect of HA as an antioxidant. So loads to take away today, so make sure you've got your pen and paper before pressing play on this episode. Here's Heidi and I for Beauty Industry. Heidi, welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamara. Happy to be here.
Likewise to have you. Heidi, we start all of our episodes in the same way by diving back into the start of our guest's career. And I would love to explore that with you today. How did you enter into the professional beauty and aesthetic industry?
Goodness. Wow. Okay. So when I was in high school, I had a passion or a desire to be a makeup artist. And when I actually explored this, I discovered that I could actually do beauty therapy together with makeup art. And when I did my studies in beauty therapy, I actually fell in love with the skin aspect and understanding the body. And so I actually deviated away from doing makeup art and actually really focused on being a beauty therapist. So that's where it started. After high school, did my studies. And then I had the opportunity of working in Cape Town in South Africa with a great doctor doing pre and post-operative procedures. And then I had this passion or desire to travel the world. And I started working on cruise ships, which was initially only intended to be 1 contract. I then stayed on ships for 7 contracts, doing skin treatments, focusing on the facial column, as they called it on ships. And then I wasn't yet ready for South Africa, and I went to Dubai. And that's where my education journey started. Working at a Spa Consultancy Company and actually educating therapists in the brands that we actually distributed in the Middle East. So we had quite a few brands, including Elemis and Inothermy and Dr. Dennis Gross. And it was actually really where I found my passion for education. I returned to South Africa and I thought, I'll open up a spa. So I'll first manage a spa. And I did 11 months of that. And I actually realized that is not where my calling was. And an opportunity came to work with Nimue. That was 11 years ago. An intention of being a makeup artist to working within education, within a brand, within a company. It's taken me really on a journey, and I was able to travel and still continue to do what I love doing, which is helping people to understand the skin and heal the skin, so to speak. So
Wow.
yeah, that's been my journey.
Very cool. I love that. We have actually had quite a similar career pathway from cruise ships into spa and then further into education. However, I did one contract as an anathermist and you've done 7. So you are certainly stronger than I am, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, they say if you can manage ships, you can manage anything, basically. So it was a good experience. And I think that led to opening up opportunities and gaining the confidence to be able to explore other avenues within the skincare industry. So I think it was a great background opportunity for me.
Absolutely. And so 11 years at Nimue, which is such a cool feat. You know, I always feel like when people say they've been in a company for longer than 3 years, you know, the brand culture and the brand must be somewhere special because staff retention and turnover is certainly high these days. So that speaks volumes. But we're going to actually be diving into an ingredient today, one of our favorite ingredients, which is hyaluronic acid, or HA for short, when we're writing therapist and treatment notes. Now, most brands do have HA in their range, and I want to kind of go all the way back to basics today so we can get a complete holistic understanding. Can you share with us what exactly is hyaluronic acid?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, hyaluronic acid is something that is very fascinating to me. And I find it, not just as an ingredient in skincare, but also, hyaluronic acid within the skin. And hyaluronic acid was actually discovered in the early 1900s. And initially, they thought it was just in the vitreous humor of the eye and in joints. But then further studies showed, hang on, hyaluronic acid is in a lot of tissues in our body organs. And then, of course, they discovered the skin has actually 50% of the body's hyaluronic acid. So half of the body's hyaluronic acid is actually found in the skin. And with the hyaluronic acid within the skin, we do find it in places where the cells are more loosely packed. So you'd have it in the dermis, particularly in the papillary dermis, because there the collagen and the elastin fibers are a little bit more loosely packed in that area. And the hyaluronic acid in the dermis feeds the epidermis with water. But then also hyaluronic acid is found in the epidermis as well, particularly in the stratum corneum. And that then gives the skin that moisture in the upper layers and keeping those cells within the stratum corneum nice and plump. Now, the thing is that with hyaluronic acid, it is an amazing natural molecule within the skin. And it's one of the simplest GAGs or glycosaminoglycans within the skin. And how it actually forms, it's just by 2 sugar molecules that is formed together or joined together by a bond. And there's this little enzyme that we find in the membrane of the cell, which is your hyaluronic acid synthase. And that actually stimulates the production of your hyaluronic acid. So, for example, when there's messages to the skin that says, we need hyaluronic acid, or when there's controlled wounding that we would get, let's say if we have a chemical peel or needling on the skin, that process of stimulating hyaluronic acid production then kickstarts. So, of course, this little two sugar bonds, enzyme, or at least molecules, are then joined together, and through the cell membrane, through a channel, out comes your hyaluronic acid molecule. So, of course, naturally, we know hyaluronic acid gives the skin its natural plumpness and volume, and it helps to hold collagen and elastin fibers in place. It's great for tissue repair. It helps for wound healing. So it's a phenomenal natural substance within the skin. However, our lifestyle is not very favorable on hyaluronic acid, and hyaluronic acid has a very fast turnover rate. So, you know, when we talk about our skin cells having a turnover rate of, let's say, 28 days, hyaluronic acid has a 24-hour turnover rate. So it needs to be replaced very quickly. And what breaks hyaluronic acid down is this enzyme, which is your hyaluronidase. Sorry, that's a tongue twister, but it actually breaks the hyaluronic acid down. And that little enzyme gets kick-started when your skin is exposed to UV radiation, when pollutant factors is affecting the skin, our environment, our lifestyle. It actually stimulates that enzyme, and that then breaks down the hyaluronic acid. So that is why there is a need that we would have to help the skin in terms of either stimulating the skin's natural hyaluronic acid or supporting the skin with additional hyaluronic acid. And yes, there's an option of injectable fillers that is hyaluronic acid. But unfortunately, you know, from the expense point of view, clinical complications, fear of needles, you know, something that is invasive. For some people, that is not the option. So that is where hyaluronic acid ingredient could be formulated into moisturizers or serums to be able to supplement the skin's hyaluronic acid and also to replace the hyaluronic acid within the skin. So yes, it is a great ingredient in terms of binding water to the skin. And also where it works within the skin does depend on the format of the hyaluronic acid or the size of the hyaluronic acid molecule. So yes, that just takes us from basic as to where and why we need hyaluronic acid, you know, in the skin.
Oh my goodness, Heidi, that is so impressive. I am sitting here writing 1 million notes, and I think I can safely say on behalf of every therapist, I have been that therapist who has gone, hyaluronic acid holds 1,000 times its weight in water, you know, when recommending to our clients. But wow, I mean, all of that knowledge there, I mean, you know, it's really interesting that HA is found throughout all the layers of the skin, and really, really interesting to me that our skin holds 50% of the entire body's volume. But also as well, I think that because hyaluronic acid is naturally found within the skin, when you put it on topically, it's that like for like ingredient. So we're mimicking a function that the skin already makes, which is why our skin so readily accepts it.
Exactly. No, I mean, yes, because, you know, the format that we use as well, being very water soluble, the skin recognizes it and says, okay, you're welcome, you can come in. And of course, then the skin will utilize that format on the skin. But yeah, it's fascinating the way it works and accepts, and it allows the skin to then start kind of functioning for itself and thinking, okay, I need this extra hyaluronic acid to support the existing hyaluronic acid in the skin.
And something you touch based on there, which I think we often forget about as therapists, is just that importance of hydration. You know, you said there that, it holds the collagen and elastin fibers in place, and it helps with tissue repair. I think sometimes we go, oh, a little bit of hydration is just hydration. Let's talk about, more stimulating ingredients or your retinols or, your collagen-like ingredients. But I think sometimes hydration is certainly overlooked in our prescriptions.
Absolutely. And the one of the things that we've seen is that lack of water within the skin, that dehydration, has actually led to a lot of skin conditions, sensitization, an impaired barrier, inflammation. All of that can actually just be tied in with a lack of water within the skin. So, if we are able to correct and repair, we're able to actually correct a lot of conditions within the skin based on a lack of water.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, speaking about a skin condition, how do we know the difference between a dry and a dehydrated skin when making that decision to recommend a product with HA in it to a client? Because again, I think this is sometimes, a confusion on the therapist half where they flap around the words dry and dehydration so much that no wonder the client's confused. And then, we're putting on all types of oils and hydrating products. So can you share with us what are your kind of defining points that you look for in a dry versus dehydration?
Absolutely. And yes, I mean, this is something that we really focus on when we, educate our therapists and letting them understand the skin during their skin analysis. And what we typically say is that dehydration can be referred to as a skin condition. So it's something that could be, coming from a place of a temporary condition as, from factors, environmental factors, products that they've used on the skin, perhaps like harsh treatments that they've experiencing. And what we would normally say is that when the skin is dehydrated, the skin is lacking in water. So we would say it's a lack of hydration within the skin. So how the skin would feel is that feeling of tightness. How would it appear? It is possibly little fine lines that you may actually see within the skin. And just last week, we had training with a new skin analysis machine. And they used me as a model and it showed hydration. And oh my goodness, I was actually very dehydrated around my eye area. But it shows that little fine lines, that is as a sign of dehydration. Then a dry skin, we would say normally it's a skin type. So that would be possibly linked to genetics, something that we are born with. And this is where we say the skin is lacking in sebum or oil. So we would say that there's a lack of oil on the skin. So the skin will feel rough. It will also look dry, something that is like cracked or parched. And sometimes a dry skin could be more difficult to treat because we have to now replace oils within the skin, stimulate sebaceous gland functioning. So yes, there is sometimes an overlap in how we would see a dry, dehydrated skin. There's flakiness, maybe there's, sensitivity, dullness, but it is important to go into the consultation and to really define how the skin, what the client has been using, what they've been doing, what is their lifestyle influences. And so when a client is dry, we would treat the skin with an oil, an emollient type of moisturizer. If they are dehydrated, we'll treat them with something that is more water-based, like hyaluronic acid. So even if you give a dry skin client a hydration-based product with hyaluronic acid, yes, it can help and can boost, but we need to also address the oils that are lacking in the skin. That is how we would assist a therapist in differentiating between those two, one being a condition and one being a skin type.
Yes. And all of this just goes back to how imperative the consultation is with your client. I think often we get quite robotic and we can just ask the same old meaningless questions, or, we might brush over that consultation card, and not actually dig any deeper. But I love what you're saying there, to use technology and to really ask those imperative questions about lifestyle and products that they're currently using, and, how their skin feels almost after a shower or after cleansing, so that you can really deduce that information.
Exactly. And I mean, 30 years ago, when I studied, we didn't really take a client's lifestyle and the environment much into consideration. Over the years, we have to, because that can dictate what the skin, that you're looking at, what it's telling you.
After the break, Heidi introduces us to the concentration of HA and the antioxidant properties that science is now discovering. But first, a word from today's beauty partner. Community, it is clear that long-term skin health is not only the Vital Plus passion, but also their obsession, rooted in the DNA from the very beginning when Jacqueline Gorbischer established Vital Plus. The team at Vital Plus believe that education creates better businesses, so Vital Plus offer extensive and flexible training options both in salon and online to help salons upskill and reach their full potential. Whether you're a startup or an established salon, inspired to take your business to the next level as a big-hearted business, Vital Plus are there with real person on the line, ready to listen and happy to help. With no minimum opening order and no minimum monthly spending, Vital Plus makes it easy to work with Australia's best holistic skincare brands. Vital Plus also offers great profit margins, huge quarterly salon bonuses, and staff incentive programs. In addition, if you want to start making your own videos, you can schedule a video session to create professional videos using state-of-the-art equipment at the Vital Plus headquarters in Mossman. To celebrate their 30th business anniversary, Vital Plus is offering 30% off your first order. And yes, you heard that correctly. That's 30% off your first opening order, which does not come around too often. So head over to vitalplus.com.au and use the code anniversary at the checkout to redeem this incredible offer on your cart. Thank you to the team at Vital Plus for making this episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast possible. And now back to Heidi. I'm curious to know, we always hear about amounts and percentages of ingredients in products, and a lot of the time therapists like to use that type of jargon or language to talk to their clients. In terms of hyaluronic acid, is the concentration of HA in a product important?
Okay, so it's actually a very interesting question. And I always explain, comparing apples with apples. When you compare concentration of ingredients, it's very difficult to actually say, this is a percentage of hyaluronic acid in this product, which is more beneficial than a percentage of hyaluronic acid in another product. So it is important, but it does depend on the molecular weight and what the form of hyaluronic acid is being used. So the molecular weight, if we're talking about it, means the size of the molecule, of the hyaluronic acid molecule. And you have many different sizes. You have the high molecular weight, which is more hydration on the surface. You will have your medium to your low molecular weight, which is for defense and reconstruction. And that is, helping to plump the cells with moisture, helping to, protect the skin against free radical damage. And then you get the very low molecular weight, which works deeper down. It's more your rejuvenating functions within the skin. It's the one that actually helps change, certain functions and structures within the skin. So in general industry standards, we would say that the norm is to have a concentration of between 1% to sometimes 2% of hyaluronic acid. But we can look at that molecular weight almost like a delivery vehicle, a delivery system. So the smaller the molecule, the deeper it goes into the skin. and the more benefits it's going to have within the skin. The larger the molecule, the more it's going to remain on the surface. Now, the important thing is if the molecular weight or the molecule is too high, or there's too much of the hyaluronic acid, we need to remember that we use the sodium hyaluronate form for formulations. We cannot use the hyaluronic acid itself. So sodium hyaluronate, which is very water soluble, we can use that format into a product. So if the percentage is too high, remember that's a salt. And if it's too high, it can actually have a reverse effect. And the skin can actually end up going to the other side of getting even more dehydrated. So I liken it to a sea sponge, okay? A high salt content in the ocean, and you leave that little sponge out and it gets very cracked and like very breakable when it gets dry. And it's the same thing with the skin. You have too high concentration of sodium hyaluronate in the skin, you can actually end up being too dehydrated. So that is one aspect of it. And we find that there is greater benefits to the skin if sometimes you use more than one form of hyaluronic acid. So you can end up with greater benefits. So you may have a small percentage of one form of hyaluronic acid that may be higher molecular weight, and then another smaller percentage of a very low molecular weight, but they're all working throughout the skin to give the skin maximum benefits and changes within the skin.
Wow, how incredible. I really, I love that. I've never heard that before. The different weights of the ingredient and then utilizing all different weights so that you can kind of target those 3 layers of the skin. I find that really interesting. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, it's a pleasure.
So in terms of hyaluronic acid, obviously it's come so far in terms of the development and the actual ingredient itself. And we're now actually seeing that new studies of HA have antioxidative properties, which is very cool. I am a big fan of antioxidants. How can something like hyaluronic acid actually protect our skin from environmental stress? Because let's face it, that's like 100% of our clients and also us.
Exactly. And no, we are faced with free radicals on a day-to-day basis. We actually had a really great talk yesterday on antioxidants, actually, but looking at it from a topical application on the skin and nutraceutical. And it was just fascinating. So yes, from an antioxidant benefit to the skin, look, your cross-linked hyaluronic acid and your low molecular weight hyaluronic acid already is known to be able to fight against free radicals. And how it does that, it really activates the skin's natural defense mechanism. So I'd like for us to think about it, that the more water you have in the skin, the more your skin functions is able to be, you can say, more efficient because there's water. We're able to function better if we have water. So, of course, if you have more hyaluronic acid, think of the functions of hyaluronic acid. It helps for cellular communication. So it will say, hang on, we've got some attack from some forces. These free radicals are trying to damage my skin. So it just heightens the skin's natural defense mechanisms. So in that way, it helps to protect against free radical damage. But then there's also newer versions of hyaluronic acid. And this is where I get really excited because the studies have actually shown that these newer formats of hyaluronic acid is definitely having antioxidant functions. And for example, I'm going to give you an example of one of the formats. I'm going to name it as our acetylated hyaluronic acid. What the studies has shown is that it actually increases an enzyme within the skin called your thyrodoxin reductase. And this thyrodoxin reductase is an antioxidant enzyme that is naturally found within the skin or within the body. And we need to remember that the skin has its own inbuilt antioxidants. However, when there is too many free radicals zooming around the body, this enzyme, this thyrodoxin reductase, is under a lot of pressure. And the reduction of this enzyme is decreased because the skin is under so much pressure to fight against ROS and free radicals. So with this particular format of hyaluronic acid, it increases this enzyme by actually up to 34% in a condition where oxidation of free radicals is present. So the more there is of this enzyme, the more antioxidant protection there is within the skin that is able to fight against ROS. So that is just one of the ways. Then also another study has shown that this particular format of hyaluronic acid is able to protect the skin against pollutants. So pollutants in our environment, which, you know, if we're living in a city like I do, I'm not sure if you're in a big city, but pollution is very high in our city, is that it actually boosts the production of this particular protein within the skin. And this is your sequestosome protein. Now, I know it's a big word, but this sequestosome actually helps in our way our cells break down and degrade unwanted material within the cell. So I like to say it's like our skin's garbage disposal system, where it removes that damaged cell particles, toxins, free radicals that has arisen by exposure to free radicals. So of course, when there's a lot of free radical damage happening, then this protein is decreased. So of course, your skin's garbage disposal system cannot work as it should. So there's cellular damage. So with this acetylated hyaluronic acid, it increases this protein. Your skin's garbage disposal system is able to work much better. And the studies have shown that it's actually able to increase this protein by 40% in the presence of pollution, and even by 17% without the presence of pollution. So even when you are not exposed to a pollutant environment, you're still having the skin protected against the possible pollutant effects that you may be faced with. So for me, that was mind-blowing in terms of, yes, we always say, yes, it helps against free radical damage, but then to understand how it fights against free radical damage, how it builds up the skin's antioxidant potential. So yeah, that it's really like new technology that we are seeing.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Little old hyaluronic acid got a bit of a glow up, didn't she?
Exactly. It's now on a platform.
I love that. So it increases the antioxidant enzyme that's found within the skin, and then it also protects against pollutants by helping cells break down unwanted waste, and it's a hydrator.
Exactly. But there's so much more.
Yes. And I'm curious to know, how long has this acetylated form of hyaluronic acid been on the market? Because for me, this is like brand new information.
Yeah. No, it has been available. Let's see now. We came across it about probably 3-4 years ago. The benefits, I think what's so great about working in the mother company of a brand is that you get to learn about raw materials from raw material suppliers. And what they do is they come in and they talk about new and latest ingredients that we could possibly think of sourcing to be able to formulate with. And I remember sitting in a boardroom with a chemical engineer from one of our raw material companies. And he was, talking about all the different formats of hyaluronic acid, and same like you. I mean, I've only been familiar with the basic hyaluronic acid. And yeah, he was talking about this phenomenal formats. And I was like blown away. I was really, wow, it can do that. And I was sitting with our head of R&D, and I could just see her mind going sort of, way ahead in thinking, oh, we can do this, we can do that with it. So yes, it is very, new on the market, so to say. And we formulated, with these new formats of hyaluronic acid, we launched 3 new products last year, 2020. So for us, it's also fairly new. But, we're having phenomenal results and feedback and effects on the skin with it. So, yes, it's very exciting as to where it will go further in the future.
Absolutely. And I'm such a proof, says 1,000 times its weight in words. Have you seen some of the benefits or the claims based on the studies that have been done on the acetylated hyaluronic acid, or even in your clients that have been using these products since 2020?
Absolutely. My gosh. Yeah, I've been using one of it myself when it was first in the testing phases. And then recently, I just started again with the serum with this acetylated hyaluronic acid. And definitely, I've seen improvement in hydration. Obviously, it's winter here, so my skin is terribly parched and lacking in water. I've definitely seen a smoothness in the skin. So, one of the studies is that the roughness of textures also improved. Fine lines and wrinkles are reduced. But what was so interesting is that when we started with the launch of the hyaluronic acid, both in South Africa and globally, therapists and salon owners that started using it, they went like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And I remember going to Sweden in 2019 to just do a soft launch of the new molecular technology behind our new products. And therapists that has been in the industry for many years, they've said how they've tested it on themselves and they've seen, inflammation within their skin decreasing. They've seen, smoothness of their skin, plumpness. It has both short and long-term benefits within the skin. And I remember one therapist said to me, she's been in the industry for many, many years. She's used many brands. And she said, I absolutely love this because I can see for myself. So from that place, I'm able to sort of entice and recommend from a place of my own personal story. So that is, we're having both, in our clinical studies, in our testing site here at our head office, we've had great results. And then also with the acetylated version of hyaluronic acid as a raw material, it also has some brilliant case study results. It is able to penetrate deeper into the skin, up to 50% deeper than your regular sodium hyaluronate.
Right.
It's able to be more resistant to that enzyme. If you recall, I spoke about that hyaluronidase enzyme that actually breaks down. I say it's like a lock and key. So you have your hyaluronic acid molecule within the skin and you have this enzyme and it kind of fits into your hyaluronic acid and it breaks it down. So the acetylated version of hyaluronic acid actually is more resistant to hyaluronidase. And again, that was based on studies where the acetylated version, after 16 hours, they saw that it only had a 7% degradation of hyaluronic acid versus 92% with your regular sodium hyaluronate. Also, that flash filler effect, that's part of the studies that it actually had, that it's able to have that immediate plumping action between 1 and 6 hours. It's anti-aging because it also prevents that collagenase enzyme breaking down the collagen. So it is actually an MMP inhibitor. preventing the breakdown of collagen. So it's actually preserving the integrity of your dermis. As we said earlier, anti-pollution, antioxidant, and then also the fact that it reduces, again, based on clinical testing, it reduces the appearance. And this is also something that I just learned, with the introduction to this acetate hyaluronic acid. It's something called your nasogenian wrinkles. We know nasolabial fold is those little lines that runs along the sides of your mouth, but the nasogenian wrinkles is that little fold together with all the featherings of wrinkles in that area. So that entire area actually had a wrinkle reduction.
Wow.
And so, yes, phenomenal. And like I said, that is what people are seeing, therapists are seeing, clients are seeing. So I always say to, I know in our distributor in Australia, she says, "Oh, tell them that it's like a super powered hyaluronic acid." So yes, I do say that it's like a superhero of hyaluronic acids, where if you think of Superman, Clark Kent in his office, nerdy glasses, jacket on, and there you have his cape on and he becomes a superpower. And that's basically what acetylated hyaluronic acid is your regular format with the addition of acetyl compounds. So it's extra molecules added to give it its superpower benefits. That's how we basically explain it to our therapists.
Wow, so cool. I absolutely need to get my hands on this product. And speaking about products, I was actually on the Nimue website the other day, of which you are the education manager for, and I noticed that they had a hyaluronic oil. Now, I don't think I've ever seen a hyaluronic oil. What can you tell me about this product?
Okay. Okay. So yes, we know that sodium hyaluronate is extremely water soluble. And for that reason, it's never really been able to be formulated in an oil-based formulation. So again, this was, when we were introduced those 3 years ago to the different formats of hyaluronic acid, they spoke about this new version of a low molecular weight hyaluronic acid. It's a new generation. It is highly hydrating and it is able to be formulated into an oil formulation. So it is oil soluble. So the benefits there is that it is able to work deeper, being low molecular weight. So it's able to have that deeper penetration. It's able to also, within an oil formulation, it also strengthens the barrier. So it forms a film, and that oil base actually helps with the dryness. So there comes that client that is both dry, that may be also dehydrated. They are able to use an oil, which is giving them that nourishing, comforting, barrier repairing effects, but then also the benefits of hyaluronic acid, which is going to then hydrate the skin and improve on just the way the skin is functioning, the skin biomechanics, and then also both instant and long-term hydration because it's working deeper on the skin. So it's this low molecular weight hyaluronic acid infused into an oil blend. And yes, it's an oil. So, in South Africa, in Johannesburg, particularly where I'm living, it's very dry. And, you end up, with heating and the skin gets very dry. I mean, my hands, besides sanitizing your hands to thy kingdom come, you are very dry. So this is you're able to use the serum, the one with the acetylated hyaluronic acid. So it's going to do all that restructuring, rejuvenating effects within the skin. And then you can have the oil that you would apply on top of your moisturizer just to give that skin the nourishing aspects of the oil and further boosting the skin with hydration. So it's a brilliant concept. As we said, it is a new form of hyaluronic acid. So, we don't see it around too often. Yes.
Wow, that is so very cool. I am probably Australia's biggest advocate for a facial oil. I think, there's a lot of clients and also therapists who are really afraid of oils because they're scared of, breakouts or acne or blackheads or anything like that. But for me, my skin just absolutely soaks up and absorbs an oil. So I think, combine the fact with that oil, you're getting that beautiful barrier repair, you're also getting that natural glow. And then the addition of that water, you're also getting the hydration. As you said, it's perfect for when you're kind of looking at that skin dry, dehydrated. I'm not sure. Are they a little bit of both? That might be the perfect ingredient or product for them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And the great thing is again, that fear of oil. And I have worked with brands that have oils, and I used to also fear oils. But the great thing is that you'll apply it on the skin and it doesn't leave like a residue. It actually soaks in. So you get that comfort, but without the feeling of, something is topically heavy on my skin, or I need to blot it. Where some people like that feeling of something is extra, whereas other people would be, I don't want to feel that. But so this gives them that comfort. A lot of clients will purchase a product based on texture and how it feels on the skin. So this would be, something that would benefit those clients that doesn't want to feel something heavy or that's going to be comedogenic on the skin.
Absolutely. Heidi, you have given me, and I'm sure our listeners, so much to think about today when it comes to hyaluronic acid, that little ingredient that I think we've all certainly overlooked. I can imagine everybody is going to go and grab their HA off the shelf now and recommend it to their next client. And your wealth of knowledge is just so impressive. I know everyone's going to be sitting there with their phones making notes, or if they haven't already, grabbing out a little book and writing this down. Thank you so much for sharing today with us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Tamara. I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity. I know I always joke with the educators in the office, I'm a bit of an ingredient nerd. I love to find out, if you're going to be in the product, I want to know how you work and what it's going to do and what's your benefits. And that's how clients are as well. Our clients are being more educated and they want to know, okay, tell me what it does. Tell me what it's going to do for me. What's in it? So I think, if we can and educate our clients over and above, I think that is, we're going to walk around with really highly educated clients, which is really what we would also like.
Absolutely. And then that stops us from feeling a little bit silly or feeling like we're a deer in headlights when our client poses, some tricky questions back to us. So you are certainly amongst friends when it comes to ingredient nerds. Don't you worry.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, my brain just exploded with all of that HA goodness. And I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to know what I'll be drenching my skin in tonight before bedtime. Sometimes as therapists, we tend to overcomplicate our clients' routines, and that includes ours, when in essence, sometimes the most dramatic results can come from the simplest of ingredients when we strip it back. If you've loved today's episode, please help us out by sharing this conversation with your therapist friends. And if you're feeling super generous, please feel free to leave us a review and a rating in your podcast app to continue to push us up the charts, which helps us get more ears listening to the pod. Until next time, stay connected.